So we're so excited that Old Crow Medicine Show is going to be joining the Music for the Mountains concert this weekend. Tell me about what was important for you to be involved in this.
Well, North Carolina is the probably the most inspiring part of the geography of country music. I live down in Nashville, as so many of the makers of this genre do, but I look to those mountains for my inspiration, and my heart it's really up there. My band formed there. We got two native North Carolinians in the band. Um, we just got roots there, and what's happened has affected all of us. But if your heart is really for the Western mountains of North Carolina, it's broken now.
And you guys kind of got your start in Boone, right? That's where you were living and busking and
Yeah, we sure did. But I'd lived in North Carolina. I moved to Greensboro when I was 18, and by the time I was 20, we were living in Avery County, North Carolina, and going regularly into Boone to play. But we lived in along the Watauga River watershed. That's a river that rose terribly high and has swept away communities. The little town of Beach Creek that we lived in Avery County, North Carolina, has had terrible irrevocable damage. The place we were supposed to play this weekend in Spruce Pine in Mitchell County, North Carolina. I mean, Mitchell County has just been devastated. So, our role here is to raise awareness. Now that the choppers are gone and the news crews, we need to remind folks that the hard work really is what's ahead.
absolutely. Have you been to that area yet, or was this weekend supposed to be your first time back?
Yeah, we had a gig in Cullowhee, North Carolina, on the campus of Western,
Hmm.
on the day of Hurricane Helene's touchdown. So that was canceled.
I imagine so.
And then so we didn't come up that night. And then I came up about maybe 5, 6 days after the storm, and did a relief supply run around Unicoi County, Tennessee, Carter County, Tennessee, and then brought supplies that went up into Avery County. The roads were not clear, so I met somebody who I met a fleet of folk that all remembered when Old Crow lived up around, Elk Park. So yeah, I got to see some firsthand with the helicopters and with the National Guard troops, and all the mud, and it's really heart wrenching what has happened, and it's just staggering to see some of the imagery of what the folks up there are contending with. But to get up there on the ground was like, oh man, I want to go home and I want to bring everybody with me.
Right. Yeah. Some of our crews that have been there have said whatever you see on TV or whatever you think it's 10 times worse. So, um, you wrote a children's book a few years ago called Lorraine, the girl who sang the storm away. I was thinking about that with this storm and I don't know. Have you thought about Lorraine during this?
Yeah, in fact, I got the woman that inspired that story for me was not a little girl, but a Appalachian woman named Lorraine. Lorraine is a woman of Cherokee descent, and she's now in her mid 70s. But she had the tobacco allotment behind our house that we were living in, when we were up that way. Anyway, Lorraine had this pet crow when she was a kid, and she told me the story about this crow named Pretty Boy. And they took a blade and they split Pretty Boy's tongue. This is probably like 1958, when little girls were usually splitting the tongues of birds so that they could talk. And she clipped its wings so that it would flop instead of fly away. And she raised this bird. After the bird died, they found this hollow in where anything shiny, the bird had hidden these things. Pretty Boy had like taken all this stuff, but it's mostly trash, pop tops and cans and tinfoil. So in my children's story, Lorraine, the girl who sang the storm away, the bird, takes things that are of much more consequence, like keys and a pocket watch. He takes her harmonica and her grandfather's penny whistle too. It was hard to think of metal objects that a crow could carry off
Okay.
in the music canon. Um, anyway, Lorraine lives in the real Lorraine lives in the town of Valley Forge, Tennessee, which had devastating floods right in Carter County. So she was part of my visit up to the mountain. Thanks for asking about her.
Yeah, I listened to somebody read it on YouTube, and it's lovely. I want to get it for all the children in my life now.
Yeah, I've been reading it to all kids all across I've probably read that book to 15,000 kindergartners in 12 states.
You could probably just memorize it now. Just
Oh, I have it. Yeah.
That's awesome. This concert's going to benefit a lot of people across Western North Carolina, but really a lot of musicians and artists and venue operators, especially. You and old, you've been a champion of sort of old time and Appalachian music. Why is that music so entwined with this place in North Carolina, and how do you hope this funding helps?
Well, the music of, some of you guys might know that Old Crow Medicine Show met Doc Watson, the granddaddy of all pickers, on a street corner right out in front of Boone Drug on King Street in Watauga County, North Carolina. This happened in the late 90s. I was like 21 years old. And here comes this, long, tall, blind guitar picker with his daughter, Nancy, walking across the street. Um, that was sort of my encounter with the roots, with the traditional music makers of North Carolina, and it doesn't stop with Doc. I had that encounter with a lot of musicians who are from the old generation, the progenitors of the hillbilly music that came out of these hills and waters. These are the headwaters of American song up there in Western North Carolina, Southwest Virginia, East Tennessee, and East Kentucky. The Southern Highlands are really the region without them, there'd be no rock and roll, there'd be no country music. It's just a really big artistic explosion happened in this region. So it's really quite sacred to us. If you love song, American song is really at its peak up in those jagged peaks. And as far as what we hope to do, I think the only thing that we can do is, like I can go there and I can cut drywall and I can drag stuff out to the curb. I don't know that's the best use of my time. I think what they keep saying, send money, don't show up. So, of course, what did I do? I drove up there with some money and a lot of relief supplies, but I needed to see. I needed to see that 194 was out and that 321 was swamped at the Elk Mills Bridge, because those are places that I ran around and learned to ride a dirt bike and stuff and picked a banjo, met Doc Watson. So at this point, I think it's really safe to say the responsibility, if you love Western North Carolina like I do, you need to get out your checkbook.
Absolutely. Thank you. I totally agree. I talked with the woman with Grandfather Mountain yesterday, and she said if you're going to travel, travel with empathy. But these people have been through a lot. So, and you grew up in Harrisonburg too, right? I've spent a lot of time in Harrisonburg myself.
Oh yeah, yeah. I grew
Yeah.
up in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia,
Yeah.
but I'd lived a lot of places before then, and I went to summer camp in Saluda, North Carolina, when I was a kid.
Love
Um,
Saluda.
Up in those beautiful mountains. And I think that's when I was first exposed to what made the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina different than the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia.
Absolutely. Anything else you want people to know that come into this concert, why they should come, why they should support this effort?
Um, you know, I I want everybody to know that um, we are all scrambling to think of ways to be impactful because the devastation is so vast and our impact right now is so important. Uh, and um, and what my band can do is throw a big concert. We're doing it in Raleigh. They asked us, and we immediately said yes, no question. We'll stop what we're doing. I'm supposed to be home. I'm missing my kids' play. I'm missing my son's soccer match. It's an important one. But, these are the kinds of things that we need to think about doing to make these small personal sacrifices for folks who have lost so very much. So I'm coming to Raleigh. I want you guys to come out there. Bring your dancing shoes and your wallets. We're going to have a good time. but we're there to raise money, funds, awareness, and spirits. So bring it, y'all. Come on out to Red Hat Amphitheater. A whole bunch of my friends are going to be there. We're going to play some music.
Love
Music
it.
lifts the soul, and that's what we need right now.
Absolutely. Catch, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. We're looking forward to hearing you on Sunday.
Okay, thanks everybody. Peace. God bless you, Western North Carolina.
Thanks. Bye.